So you think the waiting room is a doctor's office? No. Should I pick it up, Mr. Haber? Got it. Okay, is that Morris? Morris is here too. Thank you very much. Boker Tov Yosef Tzaddik. Boker Tov Morris. Okay, we said last time we're on Nun Beis Daman Aleph. The Gemara said 52a. The Gemara said V'amar Pogmo. The Gemara said that if you taste the cup of wine, you invalidate the cup of wine. You make the wine pogum. Something if taste, meaning if let's say you had a cup of wine and you went ahead and you tasted, I drank from the cup of wine. And then after I drank from this cup of wine, I decide, I want to say the kiddush, not the kiddush, let's say I want to have Havdalah. I want to say this cup of wine that I had, let's say it's Suda Shlishit, I had a cup of wine. I want to use the same, and I tasted it, and I want to use the same cup of wine for Havdalah. I already contaminated the Gemara said it's pagum, because it's not respectful to use this cup of wine that you went ahead and you tasted from and use this cup of wine for Havdalah. So what do? So what do you do with this cup of wine? So we're going to see Tosfot. We're going to focus on the Tosfot today and the halacha. What do you do for the cup of wine? Okay, we're going to see from Tosfot the idea of adding water to this cup of wine, adding a little wine to this cup of wine. By adding something that will fix it up. But we're going to see, interesting, the language of Tosfot, and we'll see the Shulchan Aruch. Look at the Tosfot, Mr. Haber, and everybody else. Ta'amo Pogmo. You see the Tosfot on the left side. You see the headline right underneath that? Underneath, a little further down. Ta'amo Pogmo. If you got it? The headline. See the headline? Right here. Ta'amo, if you taste it from it, as Mr. Haber said, like you're contaminated. Made it began. When we learned Chulin, one of Mr. Haber's favorite Masechtot is Chulin. It's right, Mr. Haber. Tama Pogmo is like you make a pagam. Pagam is like you made something negative about it. You made something, you created something, a negativity about it. Tama Pogmo. Pirush Rashbam. The Rashbam says that dafka lekiddush u'lehavdalah. Kiddush, havdalah. And I think he doesn't, not only, I would say also any kosher bracha, like Birkat HaMazon, if you're using a kosher Birkat HaMazon, Kiddush Lavdalah, Sarich Shelo Yeh Pogum. That, you need that, it should not be Pogum, or use Mr. Haber's word, contaminated. You have to be careful that you didn't drink from it. If you want to use this cup, if you drank from it, you cannot use this cup unless you have to do something to fix it up. Let's say you drank from a large cup, 10-ounce cup of wine, 10-ounce cup, and you drank 5 ounces, and you had 5 ounces left. And then you want to go ahead and pour these 5 ounces into a becha. You can't, and the becha is a 5-ounce becha. You can't. That's no good, because you tasted from this wine, and you didn't do anything to fix up the wine since you tasted from it. You just took from a 10-ounce cup of wine, you drank 5 ounces, and you took this 5 ounces that were left, you pour it into a 5-ounce becha, no good, right? So Tosfot says that's only no good if it's a question of you want to make kiddush, you want to make havdalah. But what about if you want to drink a cup of wine? I drank this cup of wine by lunchtime. I said a bracha gefen. Now evening I want to drink this cup of wine again. I need to make a bracha. Do I have to do anything to say? Do I have to also, do we say it's contaminated? And there's an issue. I got to fix something up, or do we say no problem? You can go say your bracha gefen, but you're not using it in the format. The only obligation that it's called contaminated is only contaminated pogum, only regarding kiddush and havdalah. But if you want to drink it, you don't need to do anything. You're going to say a bracha without fixing it up. That's what Tosfos. That's the first thing, because the language of the Gemara is ta'amo pogmo. Once you tasted from it, you already you invalidated it in some sense. So the Rashbam wants to say the invalidation or the contamination is regarding kiddush and havdalah, but not if I want to drink it in some other context. And I'm going to make a bracha on it. I'm going to make a gefen. I don't need to do anything to fix it up. That's what he says. Avalishto, the Tosfot, back Tosfot. Sarich levarach alav. You need to say a blessing on this cup. Afal pishu pogum, even though it's pogum, and it sounds like from Tosfot that you might have thought that maybe I could drink this cup of wine if it's contaminated without a bracha, because you might have thought that the fact that it's contaminated, I shouldn't say bracha on this cup of wine. So Tosfos says that can't be. You're not allowed to benefit from this world without a bracha. So Tosfos says you can't. You're going to have to go ahead and say a bracha on this cup of wine, even though this cup of wine was drank from already and it was not fixed up. That a priority. Why? The asur le'enot min ha'olam hazeh v'lo bracha. It's forbidden to say to benefit from this world without a bracha. I want to read between the lines of Tosfot. It's interesting to note that Tosfot calls this contaminated, meaning I never would have thought if I drank from a cup of wine for kiddush. I made kiddush at 12 o'clock on Shabbat morning, and now I had leftover wine in that cup. I had 2 ounces left. Now comes 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I want to try to make my 100 brachot, and I want to make a geffen on this cup of wine. Would I look at this cup of wine as pogum in any sense that there's any issue here on this cup of wine? I'm not making kiddush. I'm making a bracha. From Tosfos it says, even though this is called pogum, like there's something negative about this cup because it was drank from. It's not as honorable. If I'm going to drink, it was already drunk from. But you know what? You're all right. If you go make a bracha, you don't have to do anything to fix it up. It's just interesting that it's looked at in the sense of pogum. What I mean to say is, maybe a chidush would come out the following. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I want to go ahead and say a bracha on this cup of wine. Maybe it's nicer to add a little wine to this cup to fix it, that it's even more honorable to say a bracha on such a thing. I'm just, not that you need to, I'm just saying that's what maybe perhaps. Now let's continue with Tosfot. The kiddush now, the kiddush havdalah. You see, you're back with me in the Tosfos, Mr. Akiva? The Kiddush Havdalah nami lo amaron elav mokum de efshir. Kiddush and Havdalah, this which we say that you should not recite a blessing on a cup of wine that was drank from beforehand, is only if you have the ability to fix up the wine. You have other water or other wine to fix up this wine. But what about if you're stuck? You have 3 ounces of wine. Let's say you have exactly a revered. Someone drank from this revered. It was already drank from it came from a bigger cup. And now I need to make kiddush. I need to make havdalah. I have no water to add to it. I have no other wine to add for it. So we say you can use it. Use it. There's a chatzila, there's b'diavad, you're stuck.
How long after he drank the first cup does he have the allowance to continue to drink it?
Give me your case, Mr. David.
He drank it. You said he at 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock in the afternoon, he said kiddush.
At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he wants to drink that one.
Right, so he's definitely by 4. If he had kiddush at 12 o'clock, he finished his meal by 2. So therefore, obviously, he said Berachos Hamazon. He stopped eating. He stopped drinking. So at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he decides to drink. He has to say a geffen. He has to say a new bracha. But once you finish your meal, you finish at 2 o'clock. You said Berachos Hamazon. Now, anytime you're going to drink anything afterwards, you have to say a new bracha.
What if he didn't? Let's say he drank a small amount. He sipped a small amount for 4 hours.
So then you don't need to say. Then you keep on drinking.
You keep on. You don't have to.
Correct. Because as long as you stayed in the same area, you didn't leave and so on. And then you get into issues, questions. If you left, whether it's considered a hefsek or not, that would be a good.
Your case is what case?
My case is it's like a guy on Shabbat, made kiddush on Shabbat, 12 o'clock, and then finish. He says Berachos Hamazon at 4 o'clock. He's coming to drink. He wants to drink. He wants to drink this wine.
And is that wine already reserved for the previous meal when it's finished, or does he have to
Is there anything that was they have to do anything to this wine? He drank from this wine before. It's very common. People have a cup of wine from, even let's say from Birkat HaMazon, from the Birkat HaMazon, they had a cup of wine and it was left over in the cup of wine. And people drank from that cup of wine. And now they left it, no one spilled it out. They didn't want to waste the wine. And that wine is left, he wants to drink it. So Tosfos is addressing that issue. Do I have to do anything before I drink this wine? It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm not making kiddush. I'm not making Havdalah. So Tosfos needs to tell us, I want to reuse it. Do I have to do anything to reuse it? So Tosfos says, you know what? You don't have to do anything. But really, Tosfos says you need to say a bracha even though it's pogum. Meaning, what would you have thought? Maybe I should not say a blessing on this. Maybe what Tosfos says, you might have thought that there's some issue here that I can't drink this, or because it's pogum, it was drank from. Tosfos says no. The fact that you're not making kiddush on this, you're not making Havdalah, you go ahead, drink this without, you don't need to text it. You say your bracha and you're good. Say your bracha, meaning if it would be kiddush Havdalah, you have to fix it up. So Tosfos also says, even though you have to fix it, but if there's no way of fixing it, you can still make kiddush Havdalah. Or treat it, or
is there a difference between which liquid you're using? Is wine to be considered different than soda? Wine can be different than an alcoholic beverage. Is wine taking on its own
unique form?
Unique form in that question. Is the wine that we're going to subject to this scrutiny to, or is any liquid?
Right. So we're saying anytime we're making whatever you're going to be using for kiddush and havdalah. So if you're using beer, using whiskey, it would be subject to the same rule as the wine. If it was someone else drank from it beforehand, guy had a big cup of beer and he drank from it, and now I want to use the remainder to make kiddush or havdalah on. Since he put his mouth on that cup and he drank from it, I have to fix it before I make kiddush or havdalah on that cup of wine or a cup of beer. Cup of anything that I'm going to use for kiddush or havdalah. If someone else, if it was drank from beforehand, I have to do something to fix it, because it's not as respectful to the kiddush of havdalah to use something that was already drank from.
So the wine and the beer have the same
status. Right. If I want to reuse this for kiddush or havdalah, right? Because it's not respectful. Something that you drank from. Now I'm going to say kiddush and havdalah was already drank. It's not as clean, so to speak, because it was already, you drank from it. Now, so Tosfos continues, kiddush havdalah is all, even though we said there is this law that you should not drink from a cup that was drank from, but for kiddush havdalah, but if you can't do it, you could say the bracha even if it's pogum, even though it was drank from. But Tosfos says you put water into it. What you do is, but Tosfos here says, but here Tosfos doesn't just say drink from it without fixing it. Tosfos.
So water has the effect of fixing. Adding water or wine. So both would. Tosfos mentions water. Wine in itself can do it.
Adding wine would also. Tosfos at the end says wine or water would do it. But even in the language of Tosfos, it's very interesting that Tosfos says, Tosfos seems to say the only time we're going to add water or wine is when you're stuck. If I'm not stuck, let's say I don't. But if I have another alternative, I shouldn't just add water or wine to it. But the Shulchan Aruch is not so strict. Shulchan Aruch would say even if I have other alternatives, I could use what, as long as I add water or wine to it, I could use it. As long as I fixed it. But and the Shulchan Aruch goes so far and say even if I didn't fix it, if I'm stuck, if I can't fix it, also use it. That's how. So I want to share with you the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says the following. If, he says, you could fix the wine that was contaminated, so to speak, that was pogum, by adding a little bit of water, a little bit of wine, and even if a little bit of water will also do the trick. Chidush is, that you might have thought perhaps that water is not really significant. So therefore, I didn't really do anything by adding a little water to it. But the chidush is, he said that even if you added a little bit of water to this mixture, and then the Chafetz Chaim says, but that's provided that water wasn't drank from, meaning clear, clean water, right. Clean water also, and that will fix it up. Very important. The Shulchan Aruch says, let's say you drank it, you made kiddush, and you have left over from the kiddush, and you're the man. It's not like other people are going to be using the wine, so you're comfortable to pour that. You might have thought, I'll just pour the wine back into the bottle. I don't want to waste. There's a sin about that shit. Before you pour it back into the bottle, add water or wine to it first. Because if you pour it, you're not supposed to pour it directly that you drank from without fixing it into the bottle. So that's what the Shulchan Aruch says. Only after the fact, if let's say I didn't fix it up before I poured it back into the bottle, and I poured it back into the bottle without fixing it, so then there's the rule of bitul that we learned about Chulin, that you go with the majority. So if you, let's say the bottle of wine contains 5 ounces, and I poured back 2 ounces, so the 2 ounces become nullified in the 5 in that sense, and therefore it becomes like one thing, and I could use it for the future. But if I'm going to pour more contaminated wine into the bottle, more than what's left in the bottle, then it wouldn't work. So that's what. So the Chafetz Chaim explains, only after the fact, if I poured the wine that I drank from into the bottle before fixing it up, as long as there was enough more in the bottle than I poured in, that would technically after the day it would work. But l'chatchila, you're not allowed to do that. Therefore, what do? We add a little bit from the barrel, and therefore right, you add from a bottle, or you add a little bit of wine into the wine that you drank, or you add a little bit of water, and then you pour it back into right water or wine to do it. So again, this is the proper way to do it. Let's say you may have Dalah Motzei Shabbat. Now, first of all, you should know it's always good to drink the whole cup of wine. You can't drink if it's hard to drink the whole cup of wine. You should drink. Ideal drink 3 ounces. So you can say I like Geffen. But let's say if you didn't drink 3, if you drank 1.5 ounces, whatever it was, whatever you drank, you have left over in the cup. Don't pour the leftovers directly back into the bottle. First, put a little bit of water or a little bit of wine. Most simplest is the bottle of wine has wine in it. So just pour a little wine into the cup, and then after you do that, pour it into the. That's how. That would be the way to do it, and therefore that would. Right. So we'll just conclude with the Chafetz Chaim. I mean, with the Yalkut Yosef, we'll see how he writes it in the Yalkut Yosef. That was the Chafetz Chaim. Now we'll look at the Yalkut Yosef, Kuf Pei Beis. It's very practical laws. He says.
The question is the amount that you're going to pour, whether it's wine or water, enhance and correct
the contamination, the cup that was drank from. Right.
But the question is, do they have to have a certain volume to begin with, or can they just take a minimum? An ounce of water.
Right. So the language of everybody is ma'at. So you can fix it by putting in a little bit. It does not require you to put in a lot.
I want to put in the. I have to take the little a larger portion that itself had to qualify, or a little bit from a little bit.
Meaning, if I take a little bit from the sink, let's say,
yes,
or from anything, that's fine, because that putting that little bit in to that corrects it. That's what the language of Tosfos. Look at the end. Look at the Tosfos, Mr. Haber. He'll answer. You'll see the Tosfos, and we'll end with that.
Okay.
End the Tosfos. See the end of Tosfos? Rabbi Yonah, Ta'im Akosa, he tasted a cup of wine, and he fixed it. Pirush, after he drank from it, Hosifalav Kolshu, he ate it as drop. Even Tosfos language is, he ate a drop of water or wine, and he said a bracha on it. So it's clear from Tosfos.
Well, it's not so good. He had to add
A little
small amount.
Small,
but does the source of that small amount have to come
from something, a large bottle? It doesn't seem that it has to be. The large volume, Mr. David is talking about, if the guy went ahead and he did not fix the cup first and he poured it into a bottle, and now we want to know what's the status of that bottle. So then we say that bottle has to have a larger amount than what you poured into. But if you want to fix this cup needs to be fixed.
That's fixable.
That's what it comes out.
Okay.
No, because nobody says that the water that I'm adding to this cup has to come from
a certain body.
Yeah, if that would be correct, then they need to say it. They don't say it. It's omitted. It's not in the contract, Mr. Haber.
Yeah.
Right? You know how it's not in the contract. It's not in the contract.
You got it.
Okay. Have a beautiful Shabbat to everybody. Morris, thank you for being here. Yosef, and are you going to now Monday? We're going to have before. We're going to do it early Monday, 6:45, because if the prayers is going to be the Darim, it's going to be late. So Monday is Labor Day. We're always working for Hashem. That's what Labor Day, right? Who do you work for? Who's your boss? Mr. Haber has a boss also. I don't know if you know that. I think he has a voice. He works for God, and so we're going to be at 6:45 on Monday. If anybody's able to come, I'll be on Sunday on the Zoom at around 10 o'clock. Happy and healthy New Year.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you, Yosef. All the best to everybody. Take care.
They didn't change the date. Normally on holidays.
Right, they would change the time.
But Haran forgot. So I was just talking with him. He said,
No.
it's too late to change it. So,
But also, it's Erev Rosh Hashanah, people have a lot to do because of the holiday. So I don't think they're going to mind so much that it's a little earlier. That's my speculation.
Take care.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you, too.
he forgot.
Okay.
Because I was just talking with him. He said, what is it on Monday? And I'm like, it's a holiday. He said, no.